Well, the first thing, and if I had to rank characteristics of Waterborne, is the duplication of OEM finishes is one of the greatest qualities or characteristics of Waterborne. The fact that 80% of OEM car manufacturers today are using some sort of waterborne color coats on their cars is a real opportunity if you decide to convert to waterborne in your shop. And it's an opportunity because now you're using a product that aligns better with them. And you know, that cleaner look, that metallic that you can't quite get necessarily with solvent. You know, we get by today with being able to blend solvent products, and we get by today by duplicating that pre-accident condition with blendability and with other techniques. But the problem is that we work awful hard at it. Converting to waterborne gives you a little bit of a head start on that because now you're using some products that are more aligned with what they're putting on the car. So we have a better chance, have a better opportunity to get to that pre-accident condition look. Now, I get a lot of people that say, well, that's fine, Herb, for the new cars, but I also do some older cars. I do cars that are 4 and 5 years old. So what am I going to be, how am I going to be able to coat those cars? Am I going to have a problem with that? Well, if you think about waterborne technology and the fact that what you really get out of waterborne is a cleaner look, a better metallic look, well, that's the optimum look. Going backwards to maybe a muddier look or something that's a little cloudier or something that's not as clear and defined is a little bit easier for us to get done with this technology. It's much easier to go backwards than it is to go forward. So again, those older cars that you're going to do, not a problem. You're going to be able to get there, and frankly, you'll probably get there a little bit quicker just because of the technology. You know, you have, again, it's really about having a head start. It's really having about a head start on that whole blendability and blendable match. Now, I'd hate to have anybody walk away here today saying, this guy from California, Herb, he came out and said, if I convert to waterborne, my color match issues are going to be gone. I won't have to worry about anything. I'll barely have to look at it. Well, I don't want to misinform anybody about that. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. It's going to give you a head start to get there quicker, to get that superior blendability that everybody's looking for all the time. You're going to have an easier chance to get there and to get there to that pre-accident condition look. And the other, and then on top of that, you're going to have, you're going to be able to utilize color tools that are just absolutely are unmatched in what we have today to use. You know, the manufacturers have spent a lot of time and a lot of money to produce some tools that are very helpful to get to that blendable match and to get that, to help that painter have that head start and to get to where he needs to get to as far as color goes. So duplicating the OEM finish, in my opinion, is one of the better qualities of waterborne. Surface prep, we're not going to turn your world upside down. We're not going to ask you to jump through hoops and do a bunch of different processes. Frankly, it's really about changing grits. It's really about taking one sandpaper grit out of the prepper's hand and putting another one in most cases. And in some cases, we're already finding that this is the SOP that's in the shop. The fact that we're asking on a repair panel to go to 600 or 800 grit for your final finish before you put base coat on is not necessarily a standard operating procedure that's not already being done in shops. Every day we do conversions, and we're seeing more and more shops adopting 600 grit, adopting 800 grit. So again, it's really about, it's not about turning the world in the prep department upside down. It's really about changing grits. Blend panels, we're going to ask you to do them in 1,000, 1,200. An OEM replacement panel, we're going to ask you to do it in 400. Take a little bit of Scotch-Brite, get those edges done well, and then in those hard to get places, take care of those as well. And again, to the point that we're not going to turn your world upside down, if you dry sand or if you wet sand, really doesn't matter to us. We'll probably recommend to you that we'd like to see you dry sand because we see some efficiencies that are wrapped around dry sanding. However, if you're wet sanding, you're comfortable wet sanding and you do the proper job wet sanding, that's fine with us too. So again, not going to turn your world upside down as far as prep goes. Undercoats and clear coats, again, that's another thing we're not going to turn your world upside down about. We're not going to ask you to necessarily use a waterborne primer. We're not going to ask you to use a waterborne clear coat. Frankly, there's not one developed here in the United States yet. There are some being utilized in Europe. However, I think it's a technology that probably will have a difficult time being duplicated and utilized in a body shop environment. So we're going to allow you to use your existing primers, your existing clear coats, if you're happy with them, if they work for you, if they're working for you in your process today. We're not necessarily going to ask you to change that. No need to change that. Yeah, but the bottom line is the technology is not going to change. Now, Waterborne primer is available through some of the manufacturers, and it is a helpful tool for your painter in the booth. Probably not a cost-effective thing to be putting underneath or prepping for all jobs, but from a standpoint of repairing things inside the booth, it's a great tool. It's a great tool, and it's something that we'll expose you to and show you when we come out to convert your shop. But lower VOC products are available. We use them in California. We have 2.1 VOC clear coats and primers that we find to be very effective. And if you decide that you know, one of the opportunities you really want to take a look at is a screen marketing opportunity, and you really want to be able to tell a great story, then perhaps utilizing some of those products will work for your shop as well. So there's technology that's available that will lower VOC in those areas, but again, we're not going to rock your world if you decide to change to Waterborne and make you change all that as well. As far as repairability, great opportunity for great repairability here. A little bit of 800 paper to nib base coat inside the booth is not a problem once it's flashed, and then recoating immediately is not a problem. Nothing to be concerned about. Don't have to worry about it wrinkling. Don't have to worry about something resolvinating underneath the product. Don't have any of those concerns any longer. You know how we have, you know, again, we get back to process is really an opportunity here for process enhancements are really an opportunity for Waterborne. And this is one of the reasons why there is an enhancement here. Because you know, when you're using solvent, there's always that concern, am I going to get something to wrinkle? Can I go back over that as quickly as I need to go back over that? Do I have to pull the car out of the booth and do something to it to get that repair done? I've put my first coat of base coat down. I see something that should have been taken care of in prep. Can I just take care of that quickly and then recoat it with some base coat? Am I going to have to worry? No, you don't. It's a great characteristic for Waterborne. Not going to be an issue. You don't have to be concerned about things happening after you recoat it immediately. Control coat for metallic orientation. Every manufacturer has it. Every manufacturer calls it something a little bit different. Control coat, effect coat, mist coat. You know, there's a word. Everybody has a little different variation about what it is. But what it is about controlling the metallic and getting the job to look the way that you want it to look when you're done. And it's really as simple. And I'll tell you this is really the only technique, for the most part, that we're going to ask the painter to change. This is really the only technique that he's going to have to adopt if you decide that you want to convert to water. And it's really as simple as lowering your air pressure on your spray gun, backing away from the panel a little bit, and then utilizing a dusting technique to put that final coat on. And that final coat is really more of a half coat, and it has nothing to do with coverage. All the coats that you put down before that orientation coat is all about covering the panel. That final coat is all about making the car or making the repair look the way you want it to look. My opinion, it's great news, because now we have control over how the job's going to turn out. If you do the first control coat, you step back, you look at it, and that's not exactly how I want it to finish and how I want it to look, you have the opportunity to recoat it and do it again. But now we're not held hostage by the solvents doing the job. Today, we pick a solvent. We pick a slow solvent. We pick a medium solvent. We pick a fast solvent to decide and determine how quickly our base coat's going to flash. And at the same time, it's those same solvents that are going to decide how the final finish of the car is going to look. So whether or not we're going to have a nice, even finish is all about how well the solvent did doing that job. Now, we all know, we've all been there, we've all had those jobs that have blown up because we've had modeling, we've had some, we've had blotchiness, we've had, all kinds of crazy things can happen in the booth because basically the solvent didn't do its job properly, or maybe we didn't pick the right one. Well, now the painter has a little more control. Now the painter makes that decision about how that job's going to finish and how that job's going to end up looking when it's all said and done. To me, that's great news. To me, that's something I'd rather have control over that. I'd rather be the one making that decision that, hey, look, I've got it where I need it to be, and if I don't, I can always go back and do another coat. Excellent coverage and lower consumption. probably one of the more amazing things about Waterborne base coats, because when you first see it sprayed, and I'm sure a lot of you have had that opportunity to see it, it is amazing to see just how well this product covers. The days of having colors that are going to take 4 and 5 coats to get things covered are pretty much long gone when you start talking about water. On average, a couple coats is all you're going to need. Now, again, don't hold me to that. You know, the first color you're probably going to go and do in your booth is going to take 3 coats, and you say, well, the guy in California told me it would only take 2. Well, to be frank with you, it's going to take less. You're not going to spend as much time putting coats on because this product is just amazing. It's about the fact that these toners are concentrated, and then it's about how the molecules all line up, and once they're dry, how they all fit together. If anybody's ever seen Waterborne wet, it's really a rough and ugly looking product, and you really don't know how it's going to look until it's dried. But once it dries and it all tightens up and all those molecules squeeze together, that's what helps get your coverage. That's what helps make that product not only look really flat, but also cover as well as it does. So you have a great opportunity for that, but the amazing part about it is that your mill thickness is very thin. It's a very thin product. So if we went back to that superior blendability that we were talking about because we had alignment with the OEM, the other thing about blendability is that you also have the fact that you have a thinner coat. So when you're trying to work a blend, when you're trying to get that blend to look the way you want to, sometimes that halo, sometimes that effect that you have with solvent is about piling up. It's about the base coat getting a little bit thick around that blend. Now you have a thinner coat, now you have a wetter coat. Now you have a better opportunity not to get that effect because now you're not stacking up on top of each other. Over time, you're going to mix less product. And I say over time because, again, it's another one of those opportunities that the first day you convert to Waterborne, you're not going to mix 25% less. Because mixing 25% less or 30% less is all about the painter. It's all about getting into the painter's head and giving him the confidence that this product will cover. Because I haven't met a painter yet that hasn't walked up to a car and said, yeah, half a pint, yeah, 20 ounces, yeah, I got to make a pint for that. I mean, they already have it in their head what it's going to take to cover a car. So, and then they probably going to be a little bit skeptical when they first start whether or not that this product's really going to cover the way. So it's going to take a couple of months. It's probably going to take at least 2 months for them to really get comfortable with the idea, look, I can make less product and still get this bumper covered. I can make less product and not have to go back in the mixing room and mix more paint. So again, it's something that will happen. It's an opportunity for you, but it's one that's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to take a little bit of confidence building and a little bit of discipline on the painter's part. Shorten the process, be more productive. It just goes without saying, if I put fewer coats on the car, if I'm actually in the booth putting fewer coats to get coverage on the car, I'm going to be quicker in the booth. Then later in this presentation, we're going to talk about equipment, and we're going to talk about how you can equip yourself so that you can flash the product quicker. You can help yourself get the product flashed quicker. And then, again, we talked about the head start you have with color match and blendability, getting to that blendability point. You're going to shorten your color match time. You have the opportunity to shorten your color match time based on the tools that are available and based on the fact that you're more aligned with the car manufacturers today. So we see an opportunity to speed you up. Most people think about Waterborne and all they think about, oh, this is just going to slow me down. It's going to slow me down. It's going to grind me to a halt. But I can tell you that I have evidence. We have witnessed it many times. It takes discipline. It takes time. It takes people working at it. But you can achieve a shorter process time in your booth. Dedicated Waterborne spray guns. Just a great SOP to have. I mean, if there's painters here today, I'm sure they'd shake their heads if I asked them, do you have a base coat gun? Yeah, I've got a base coat gun. You got a Clearcoat gun? Yeah, I got a Clearcoat gun. You got a primer gun? Yeah, I got a primer gun. Well, you should have a Waterborne base coat gun as well. You should have a dedicated gun for that. Now, if you've bought a spray gun in the last 3 to 5 years, your gun's going to already be pretty much set up for Waterborne. It's probably going to have stainless steel chambers. It's probably going to have that corrosion protection that you're going to need once you start spraying water. It's going to have everything you already need from that standpoint. From the standpoint of it not corroding, you're probably already going to have that if you bought that gun in the last 3 to 5 years. Now it's just a matter of changing the needle and nozzle setup so that you can appropriately spray Waterborne. But, you know, the good news here is that on the other side of waterborne technology has been a lot of technological development. And a lot of technological development, not only from the paint manufacturer standpoint, but also from the spray gun manufacturers. Now we've got spray gun manufacturers that are actually working on their guns and making them better, have them atomize better, have them use less fluid. All these things are helping the painter do his job better. Now we actually have some technology that can not only apply the product in a manner that is going to be acceptable to us, but it's also going to help the painter be a little bit more productive and not work so hard at it, and also be able to be successful with waterborne. And so, because of the next point, when we talk about your spray gun becomes part of the solution in some cases. Waterborne basically has one speed. The manufacturers are trying to develop slower water, they're trying to develop faster water, but right now it's basically one speed. So when you get into certain climate conditions, you get in certain humidity conditions that are either low or high, get in certain temperature conditions that are low or high, your spray gun might be your only solution. How you have your gun set up, how you have it set up from a tip standpoint, a cap standpoint, how much air pressure you're putting into it, how much air pressure you're not putting into it, can all affect how the outcome of the car is going to look. So now all of a sudden your gun is part of the solution. It's not necessarily just to apply paint any longer. Now it's part of the solution. Diaphragm air regulators, I'll mention that real quickly. Air pressure is very important for color match with waterborne. You'll find when the manufacturers are talking about their products, they're going to tell you specifically how much air pressure they want for coverage coats and specifically how much air pressure they want for control coats. Now that's a great place to start, but a pressure here, a pound there might make a difference, and it might be successfully make a difference for you in your shop based on your conditions. But the idea here is you got to have a tool that's going to help you tell you what your pressure is. No, you can't really do it by ear anymore. You really need to be able to set that air pressure and have it close, because duplicating that air pressure might be the difference between having a blendable match and a non-blendable match. So you want to, and then the other thing about a diaphragm air regulator, and this is not really, I mean, I hate to get off on a tangent, but the good news about that is that if you've got air pressure levels in your shop that tend to go up and down, a diaphragm will hold that air pressure and will hold that air pressure pretty consistently in that spray gun throughout the time the painter's using it in the booth. So it's something to consider. Separate waterborne waste stream, you got to have it. Can't commingle your waste. You can't put waterborne waste into solvent barrels. So you're going to have to get that taken care of. Shelf life, the products have a shelf life. You know, it ranges from 24 to 60 months. It's something you have to consider. When they first came out, we were a little bit concerned that the shelf lives were actually going to be even less than that. Now, this is one of those areas where the specific questions are going to need to be asked of each manufacturer about what is their shelf life. But it's something to consider. It's something that you know, 24 months, in my opinion, is not a huge, is not terrible. I mean, it's not really short. So, but it is short enough that you need to think about it. It's another SOP that you need to put into your shop to make sure that you're not having product go bad on your shelves. But you know, over the course of 24 months or even 18 months, you should be able to go through those toners. Base coats are affected by climate. They're affected by extreme heat. They're affected by extreme cold. Some manufacturers' products will freeze. Some manufacturers' products will be affected by extreme heat. So I know that we have a temperature fluctuation here in Wisconsin that goes anywhere from freezing to probably 90 to 100 degrees. It's something you need to take in consideration. These products will freeze. The exposure that they need to have is below 32 degrees for a fairly lengthy period of time. Delivering a toner from FinishMaster, from your local FinishMaster store on a day that's below 30 is probably not going to freeze the toner. But if you got a condition which we actually had a truck that was delivering paint from our warehouse in Grand Rapids to our location in Minnesota over Thanksgiving weekend, and unfortunately we didn't get there before they closed. Now that truck and that trailer sat in the yard of the trucking company over the weekend. What do you think happened to those waterborne toners? They were frozen. They were frozen. But that's the kind of exposure we're talking about. So if you've got climate control already in your shop and that climate control runs pretty much 24/7, and you keep the temperature of your shop above 32 degrees on a regular basis, then you won't have to worry. But if you don't, and you have freezing conditions, and you have the opportunity where it might be exposed to a couple days, then you might want to consider some of the options that are available for in-mixing room heating or in-mixing room cooling. Offsite training. Okay, Herb, what does that have to do with Waterborne? That's not a characteristic necessarily, but it is a characteristic of a successful conversion. And offsite training, in our opinion, is an important ingredient to having a successful conversion. And what it's really about is to get your painter out of his element and get him into the training center and be able to get a chance to see the technology work, be able to get his hands on the technology and actually spray the product, and maybe do some things that he really couldn't do if he had to deliver that car this afternoon, and maybe do some things without the pressure of having 4, 5, 6 cars to get out in the day. So give him the opportunity to be able to see the product, play with the product, shoot the product, and get a feel for the product in the training center. We highly recommend it. We also highly recommend anybody in management that would like to go along with them so they get an opportunity to see how well the products work and how well and the opportunities that are available to them. Now, the rubber really hits the road in training in the shop, and making the products work are really about making it work in your shop. So I certainly don't want to say that by going to offsite training or going to offsite training that you're actually going to be able to eliminate that step. You still got to go through that. But this is a great opportunity for the painter. And the next one is really, again, another thing that's not necessarily a characteristic of Waterborne, but it is of a successful Waterborne conversion. Be prepared. Let us come in and do an audit. Let us take a look at what you have. Let us make some recommendations, and then let's act on those recommendations based on what you want to do and based on the goals that you have for when you do your conversion. You'll be much more successful. You'll be much more pleased with the results if you're prepared before we come. If you're not prepared before we come, just a lot of heartache, and in fact, it really does take longer to be successful in your conversion based on the fact that we just didn't have the right equipment there, we didn't have the right air quality there, whatever it might be. Let's make sure we have it before we get to the point of converting you. And that's really it as far as characteristics go. Not a big mystery, not something that's oh my God, I've got to make so many changes. It's really about, again, it goes back to those opportunities. It's really about taking advantage of those opportunities and those characteristics that will help us get there.